Okay, let's get it on. Let's get it started. Here we have it, the Nothing Phone 2A. Here we have it. Firstly, looking at the design and build quality of what we have here when it comes to the Nothing Phone 2A. And I know this was split right in the middle in terms of how people were feeling about the design and the build quality. The design in terms of how it stands, I would say it gave me the impression that I had an owl looking at me. Yeah, it's like it's like the eyes of an owl looking directly at you. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but I low-key felt like there was it's like the face of an owl. An owl bird looking at me. That's low-key how I felt when I was actually looking at this. So I don't know. It's very, 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 very unique to itself, I would say. It definitely follows enough an identity when it comes to the transparency and what we have. It is using a very, 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 very high quality plastic. I've got to give them that. And obviously you've got the Nothing logo embossed right there as well, with all the status story stuff that you have here, which again, that's I think more of a UK and a Europe thing. Yeah, and you've got the red accent in there. You've got pretty much a design that is tapered off or taken from the inspiration of the New York subway. Again, Nothing Tech, your London brand. Why not the London Underground? But you know what? I give it points for the fact that the design of it is so unique to itself. And it has the button arrangements that I really like. I like a power button on the right and then two separate buttons on the left. Not a volume rocker, but two separate volume buttons on the left. Right? Because nowadays a volume rocker on some phones, the volume rocker is the same size as the power button. This is a healthy size power button, two volume buttons on the left, and it's directly adjacent to each other. I love this. It just makes it so easy in terms of the one-hand experience. Thumb positioning is absolutely perfect. Rounded corners on the edge where it sits nicely in the hand, and then your reachability when it comes to your middle finger. Very easy when it comes to dealing with the volume, right? This is why I like it. I don't like a power button here, volume's up, or if the power button's slightly lower, it's awkward and adds tension to your thumb when you're pressing it. It's all the finer details and then the confusion of the volume button. I get confused with that on the Pixel phone. So this is perfect. They've got the perfect button arrangements that I like. The feel of the plastic in terms of how it ridges off is slightly ridges below or after, if you see it right there, so you can feel a little ridge here. So this stands as its own platform. If you really try and look at it, it's hard just because of the exposure, but yeah, I think this is a really nice and high quality plastic. It hides fingerprints and handles it a lot better. But the design, I do have to say, it's the pure Nothing identity. I do like it. It does feel weird. I still feel like an owl is staring at me, or it's like a snake with a big head. I feel like it's a bit, it's just a fun design. It's a fun, unique design. It's nice to see, let's just say, the screws, the glyph interface lights that are here. Obviously, it's not the full glyph interface. It's a partial glyph interface, less glyphish. As Floss will say, less glyphage. This is definitely one of the ways that you can actually see it. It's really good. It's really good. Obviously, the noise cancelling microphone at the top. Then at the bottom, you do have the USB-C port, and then you've got the bottom firing speaker, and you've also got the SIM tray and the microphone there. So take that into consideration what you have. I think overall, though, in terms of the uniqueness of the design, is great. The actual physical build quality, I think it's really good in respect to what the price point is, right? I think they've really done a good job with it. It's nice and well-rounded, especially for the footprint being 6.7 inches, corner to corner. The weight of it is also well-distributed as well. It's a good look. I find this to be a good one. 190 grams. It's dual nano SIM card slot, which is something I prefer. It's IP54 splash resistant, which is kind of a surprise. I wouldn't have expected an IP rating at all when it comes to a device within its price range. So that's a good look. Obviously, it's one of those ones where it's splash water and dust resistant. So again, just take that into consideration. It is in full waterproofing against the elements. It's really nice. It's really nice. I actually really like it. I like it. It's charming. The best way I can put for this design is that it's very charming. It grows on you. I mean, it's charming. Like, you love it. I wouldn't say you love it straight away, but it strikes a major interest, right? It strikes a major interest when you're rocking it and you're using it for the first time. And it never gets boring. It always keeps you thinking, what is looking at you from the back? At one point, like I'm saying, it felt like, you know, an owl was looking at me. Then another time I'm thinking this is like a snake with a big circle head because obviously the tail that comes here. There's just weird and funny moments where I go through different design identity of what it can be. It's like a chameleon effect, right? It's a fun design. It's fun, it's unique, it's quirky, it's the nothing identity. I like it for, in terms of the boldness to stick it to the man, you know, and do something different. And regardless of the price point, the materials being used, honestly, it feels really well put together. I have to give them that. It's really well put together. Good weight and good balance, especially of the weight. It's been really, really well put together. And everything else about it in terms of the button placement that I talked about, dual nano SIM, of course, 6.7-inch form factor when it comes to the footprint. And I have to say, we're going to talk more about the display. I have to say that that part has really impressed me, and we're going to do some measurements there. But in terms of the overall design, this is a stunner. This is a looker. This probably will win the best looking and the most unique looking mid-range phone of 2024. Not to say what's going to happen with the Nothing Phone 3 if they do bring it out this year, obviously following the yearly trend, which I'm hoping that hopefully they will do come summertime, June, July, like what they've really done and kept with. But I'll say for this one, in terms of the mid-range sector, if I'm seeing this compared to all the other mid-range phones that are coming out or have been announced, whether it's going to be the Pixel 8a, which is going to be probably of a higher spec and a higher price point, but things like the A35, the A55, and these phones in this particular bracket, man, I'm saying the Nothing Phone is looking good. The design and the build quality for this price point, it strikes a strong 8, 8.5, and in some cases, I would say a strong 9. I personally think in terms of the design uniqueness, how it keeps you on your toes, how it keeps you guessing, it can fluctuate where some might drop it to 7.5, 7, but I'm sticking within the 8, 8.5 to, on a good day when I'm really looking at it, I'm thinking, you're looking good, Nothing Phone 2a. I'll give it a 9. And the build quality, in terms of how well it's been put together in terms of the fit and finish, yeah, I vibe with it. I vibe with it. I vibe with it. Yeah, so far, I would say the design and the build quality of the Nothing Phone 2a has really struck well. Has really, really struck well. Good look, Nothing. You got something going on. Let's talk all things related to front and center, the display of the Nothing Phone 2a. Everything related to the Nothing Phone 2a when it comes to the display, we have right here. Let's put this to the side. Let's talk all things related to the display of the Nothing Phone 2a. I like that buzz. So what are we working with here? We're working with a flat panel display. Great. It's a flexible OLED panel. Great. We love that. AMOLED is great. That's what we want to see. It's got a resolution of 2412 by 1080p. It's a 20:9 aspect ratio, so we love it for the size. It's using Gorilla Glass 5 at the front. It does have an always-on display, which is one thing we love to see. It's 120 hertz, which is good. 1 billion colors, 120 hertz, HDR10 plus, and of course, it says the typical brightness is 700 nits. High brightness mode is 1100 and 1300 nits peak. Obviously, I'm guessing this is going to be either outdoor viewing or HDR content, so we're going to delve in and have a look at that. But when we go here, we can pretty much see this is what the Nothing Phone 2a is working with when it comes to the display. So we're going to bring that here. We can see that in terms of the brightness level, we can dial it down a little bit, so it's probably easy to see. We've got it in light mode, just so it doesn't reflect, but of course you can go into dark mode and it switches up nice and smooth. But again, we don't want to see the reflection, as you'll see right there. Bring it into light mode so you don't see the reflections and stuff. We've increased the screen out time. And then what we've got is obviously the dark theme status bar. What we've got here, show internet speed if you want to, of course, battery percentage, and then the always vibrate icon. That's one thing I like, status bar. So you can just, boom, change that right here. Display size, you can change it in terms of the font size and whatnot. High contrast text if you want to. Alive, I like that, alive. Or you can go to standard, but we're gonna keep it on the live, which is as we do. Display refresh rate is dynamic, high or standard. Standard being 60 hertz. Don't do that to yourself. High is obviously doing that. Dynamic is where it dynamically will switch refresh rate according to the content to optimize for battery life. Interesting. So we left it on dynamic. HDR display. Enable peak brightness for HDR content. This will increase battery usage. Again, let's see it. Displays and stuff on full screen. Auto rotate screensaver. That's what we have here. This is the display experience, right? It's a great display in terms of what we have, but let's go in and pretty much see how the brightness level is going to be. We're going to measure the brightness level. Let's find Google Photos. Right, clear white background. Right, what we're going to do is we've not got adaptive brightness on. It's probably going to overexpose on the display. We're going to push this out. Clear white background. We're going to do our lux meter and check what we're working with in terms of brightness levels. Right, we've got a lux meter here. What do we have? Damn. That ain't bad. Clear white background, auto brightness disabled. We've got that maximum, right? And this is what we have. 869 nits. So the next one we're gonna do is bring in adaptive brightness, right? We're gonna go to display, adaptive brightness, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna torch it to see if it enables high brightness mode. So we're gonna bring that here. Right, let's see what we get in terms of the brightness measurement. All right, that does increase a bit. Right, so this is what we have. With the torch on there, 1,045 nits of brightness. And we're gonna find HDR content. This is what we usually do. We go on YouTube, 4K HDR brightness test. Brings this one up, make sure it's in 4K. We're gonna make sure that we bright the light on there. Disable hold. Let's see what it does in terms of a 4% window. It's quite small. Like, can we get past and we get as close? The high brightness mode is pretty much on par, 1,100. But can we get to the 1,300 that it was referring to? Let's see. All right, let's go. Right, yeah. They got it. It's right on the money. Right, got it right there. That's in a 25% window. That is what we have here, 1,209 nits in a 25% window, all bright. I think that test goes up to 4,000 nits. So yeah, you know, it's pretty much on par. What's really surprised me and what's really impressed me is the mode in which it's a plain white background with auto brightness disabled, and you just crank it up. That is like around 900 nits. That's really, really impressive stuff. I've got to give it to them. And especially at this price point, look at the fact that they've been able to actually produce even borders across. That just looks so clean, and they are a good thickness size. This will put certain flagships from 2 years ago to shame. So this is a good look. This is such a good look. Considering where the Nothing Phone 1 first came out in 2022, this is a strong outing for an A-series phone to look this good. I've got to give it to them. Another one. The display experience on this Nothing Phone has been nothing short of good. So you can see that in terms of the display image quality, this is what an all-screen device does, man. It looks so good. The display experience on here is so good. It's so good. I've got to give props to that, man. I've got to give props to that. The display experience is exquisite. All screen, small hole punch at the top center, which is the best place for it to be, in my opinion. It's a top tier display experience. I've got to give them that. And another thing I've got to give them is how good the haptics are. Oh my goodness. I don't know why the haptics had to be that good, but they are that good. They are that good. Let me check. Is it haptics? Is that what they'll put it as? All right, so vibration, cause, intensity, and it's the mid one. Oh my goodness, the haptics are excellent. The haptic feedback on here is on point. I've got to give it to the Nothing Squad. That's one thing that they did really well. Flip to glyph, of course. So we use flip it, glyph it, flip it, and glyph it. Yeah, no. It's a good look. 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 The haptics are so tight on here. They are so tight on here. So you can see that the always on display is active. I do wish the fingerprint sensor location was here. So I will say that they still have this knack where it's lower than usual. So if you, let's just say, bring the Galaxy S24 to it, you can see that the S24 is higher. I think this is a much better position. It's a bit low, in my opinion, so it does require a bit of hand gymnastics. It's just more to give reference. I know these are different price points, but I wish the optical sensor was higher, but it does work really well, and the haptic feedback from the vibration on the phone really helps to just make it reassuring. So I love that. It's really good, really, really tight. Great haptics, good fingerprint sensor. The display experience, I've got to give it to them, man. They knocked this one. I personally think they knocked this one. They've taken this one as well, man. That's a 9 out of 10 display experience for this price point. Sheesh, considering what? The Pixel 6a from 2022 was getting slated for having 60 hertz at the time. My goodness, you're getting 120 hertz at this quality. And if you even look at last year when I did, the showcase video on the Nord CE3 Lite, £299, not that much cheaper than what you're getting here. That came with an LCD display. Yeah, 120 hertz, but it was LCD. Ugh. So we've come a good way, man. This is a good bar that you've set here, Nothing. Yeah, like I said, round 2 with the display experience, you're onto something. 9 out of 10. All right, let's move on to the next part, which is the performance and the specifications of what we're working here when it comes to the Nothing Phone 2A. All right. 8-core. MediaTek Dimensity 7200 Pro. Custom built, custom chip, custom optimized for the Nothing Phone 2A, right? 2 performance cores, as you can see, in 2.8 gigahertz, 6 performance, 6 A510, A510 cores, 2 gigahertz. In terms of the clocks that we've got here, it's a Mali G610 GPU device. Obviously, you've got the display. And of course, we've got 12 gigabytes of RAM on this particular model, 256 gigabytes of storage. I'm gonna open up Geekbench. You can see in terms of the specs right here. We've got device, 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage on this particular model that we have here. And then if we go into the history of what we've done Geekbench-wise, here is the performance benchmarks that we've got when it comes to using Geekbench, all right? This is what we got. 1,126 when it comes to single core performance, 2,581 when it comes to multi-core, very interesting. And I would say the performance is plenty okay. At this price point, I'm not going in expecting it to wow me in any meaningful way. This is not some flagship killer. It's, having used it, it runs really well. I think Nothing have been able to really optimize this chip with how their software is, where the software is not too intense, but it's more got a visual identity of the dot matrix effect that they've got going on with the Nothing phone, and just the whole Nothing identity. The dot matrix and the wireframe look of everything's clean and aesthetic. Everything's what you're meant to be expecting to see where it is. There's nothing inherently out of place. As you can see, MediaTek Dimensity 7200 Pro, 12 gigs of RAM. And obviously you can do the RAM booster as well, which is 14 gigs in total, but some storage might obviously be sacrificed internally. 256 gig, 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 6.7 inch flexible OLED display, Android 14. Yeah, I think they've done a really good job. Overall, I think the performance is more than adequate, and I think they've just really backed it up with good RAM storage allocation. I'm not too sure what the storage speed is, whether it's UFS 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 2.2, 2.1. Doesn't really matter too much at this price point. It's not something I'll be losing sleep over. I'll tell you that for free. Honestly, the performance for me, it's been great. AirPods support, show AirPods icon and battery info. Interesting. Okay, enhanced touch, improved touch response for speed for specific games, enabling the feature, glyph progress. Honestly, the software and the performance, I would say the performance has been good. I'm gonna open this up right here. Ooh. Bam. Flippity flip. Boost. Damn, man. This graphics is crazy. I do love it, man. Reminds me of Burnout Paradise, honestly. Power slide in. Boom. So yeah, as you can see, playing a game like Asphalt 9, man, it's a graphically intensive, lots of physics, fast-paced, alpha effects happening. Yeah, it's just one of those where, honestly, I feel like the performance is more than adequate enough. I'm not much of a mobile gamer, but when I do game mobile-wise, it is Asphalt 9. And, you know, it's easy, it's quick to get into, the graphics are really good. I feel like this performance here is more than adequate for what you have in terms of getting it in and getting it done. So honestly, this part, not really much to say when it comes to the experience for the Nothing Phone 2A. But yeah, performance, I think with this Dimensity 7200 Pro that they've optimized on a 4nm chip based on TSMC's process, and what they've done with their software and how they've partnered with MediaTek, I think it was great they went with MediaTek this time around in terms of Snapdragon. Snapdragon would have made this more expensive. If they went with the 7 Gen 2, 7 Gen 3, or whichever 7 Gen that they go for, it would have been a much more expensive. They'll probably have to step down to a 6 Gen 2 or 6 Gen 3. So I'm really glad they actually went with MediaTek on this particular one. They've made it work, and I think the performance is more than adequate for this price point where it's a sub £350 phone to start with before you spec it up. Yeah, I think they're on the right path, and I think they've done a great job with it. So yeah, performance, more than adequate. I think the performance, yeah, it holds its own. That is that for the Nothing Phone 2A when it comes to the performance. All things related to the camera, what are we working with here with the Nothing Phone 2A? With the camera, this is two 50 megapixel sensors. Again, this is a principal setup from what we've seen from Nothing Phone 1 and obviously the Nothing Phone 2 as well. It's a principal hardware setup that is very similar and pretty much the same. So they're basing it around that. It's one main wide sensor, one ultra wide, no gimmick sensors such as a macro or whatever. It's all there as you see it. And of course, we did do our ultimate camera comparison here. So we highly recommend that you go watch it if you haven't seen it already. The limitation for these mid-range devices is that, you know, you don't get 4K 60 on the selfie camera. That's something that you get on the iPhone. But one thing that the Nothing Phone does do well is that it does have video stabilization on the front-facing camera at least. If you look at what you have with Xiaomi, there isn't any stabilization on the front-facing camera. It is still limited to 1080p. Of course, on there, it's the performance that's really looking good. What's nice is that you even get 1080p 60, so you get high frame rate 60 FPS on the selfie camera. You don't get on the Xiaomi, so that's really good. Okay, it's, you know, and you don't have video blur mode, but we're gonna skip that. Obviously, that's a flagship feature. And you can see that the 4K video recording on the Nothing Phone 2A, it's actually comparable. Again, mind the dark and gloomy day in London, it really wasn't the case. And then, of course, you got 4K 30 on the ultra-wide. The Xiaomi's limited to 1080p 30. So again, in parity when it comes to the wide and the ultra-wide for recording compared to the iPhone 15, that's really good when it comes to video. Again, showing the zoom performance. And yeah, you know, it matches up very contrary. Now, this part, yeah, there is a slight color processing issue where, you know, it was quite purple. So if you see it there, it's like a haze. I'm sure nothing, you know, part of the software update that just came through right now is to make sure that, you know, the experience there isn't bogged. So it's a good one. It's a good one that they've got going on there when it comes to the camera. But definitely, I highly recommend that you watch the ultimate camera comparison for that. It holds up well. It holds up well. I think there's a bit of a color processing issue in some situations. So just consider that. And of course, you've got the landscape images, the super extended zoom all the way to a 10x. Again, I don't think you get these cameras for extended zoom personally. This is the front-facing camera experience that we've got here. It does okay. I think it does better. Definitely does better than the Redmi. So just take that into consideration. And then again, this is what we have here in terms of the ultra wide. The ultra wide is actually really good on a human subject. Got to give props for where that is. Yeah, and this is the 2x. And of course, you've got the 4x, but the 4x was really just matching up to what we're seeing on the Redmi. Portrait mode, again, some people are asking about how the portrait mode was. This is it. I think the portrait mode is actually quite comparable. It would have probably improved with the software update that we had. Yeah. Again, 2x, it washes out. So this is something to really look out for. High resolution mode that you've got. You don't really have the ability to switch off night mode personally, which is quite interesting. So it doesn't have a dedicated night mode option. It has the moon icon, but when you press it, it really does nothing. So, pun, right? But overall, night mode performance is actually not bad, especially when it comes to the selfie. It hits well enough, I would say, with night mode, and it does low light portrait as well. It doesn't have a night mode for portrait, but it actually works. And obviously with the front screen flash, it does give you that option to use that and still do portrait mode. So props there where it's given. Nothing Phone 2a, here we have it in terms of the ultra wide, the wide, obviously with me in the frame as the subject. Yeah, you can't really deactivate night mode. So I would say nothing should allow that for even faster capture time. Flash is decent. It allows you to use the ultra wide ultra wide and flash together. So yeah, we're working in a good space when it comes to the camera. I personally think it's a no gimmicks affair with the camera, and I think they did a great job. I personally think they did a great job with the camera. I mean, they're still doing software updates to optimize it, which is one thing we love to see. We love to see a brand that's always supporting their stuff. It's a good look, honestly. I have no complaints when it comes to the camera as such. Obviously, odd color processing issues here and there, but I look at the price point, I look at the feature sets, being able to do 1080p 60 on the selfie camera, 1080p 30 with stabilization on both of them. You got 4K on the ultra wide and the wide as well at 4K 30. I don't expect 4K 60 at this price point, but it does at least do 60 FPS in 1080p on the wide and the main sensor. There's so many things that they've ticked off that really just allows it to be a nice rounded package. I think nothing did well. Of course, you can't lens switch. So if you're recording in 4K 30 on a main wide sensor, if you want to switch to the ultra wide, you have to stop recording completely, switch lens and start recording again. So maybe lens switching, but again, I don't know if that's asking too much at this price point. So have to really consider that. But overall, I think personally, for what they did for this camera, it's no frills, no BS, no nonsense. They've just pushed what they can and what they're capable of doing into there, and it performs. Yes, minor things could be improved with color processing in certain zoom modes and stuff, and portrait mode could be better exposed when it comes to the dynamic range, but overall, personally, I think they've done a great job with this camera system, and I really hope they stick with it at this price point and keep developing it. But yeah, camera, definitely go watch our ultimate camera comparison to get full context on it. It's a good one to watch, but overall, I'll give it a nice solid 7 out of 10 for the camera. Let's talk all things related to the battery on this Nothing Phone 2a. Give me the glyph, yes. Nothing Phone 2a. So if you weren't familiar, we did a battery drain test on the Nothing Phone 2a, and it really kicked butt. It really kicked butt. And you, as our audience, really took to it very well. So here we have it. Here we have it. The battery drain test that we did here, man, definitely highly recommend you go watch it. You know, the battery drain tests have been a staple. Look at the viewership on there, man. We did it against the Redmi, the Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro, Nothing Phone 2a. man, the Nothing phone was just beasting all the way. The toughest part was obviously the Instagram. I'll tell you this now, the iPhone 15 just cooked itself. iPhone finished in like 4 hours and 26 minutes. It wasn't a good look for it at all. Wasn't a good look for it at all. And with my extreme battery drain test, again, we run it on mobile data only indoors. We get more consistent 4G signal indoors, and even then, it dips here and there. Away from doing that, of course, you know, we go through TikTok, Instagram Reels, 1 hour of Instagram live streaming, which is an absolute killer. YouTube 4K 60 for an hour. YouTube Music for an hour. Twitter Spaces. And then we've got 4K video recording on the main camera app. And then, you know, we go into gaming. After gaming, we do 1 hour video call of WhatsApp if it makes it. And then we circle back to TikTok. So if you see here, the Xiaomi finished in 6 hours, 34 minutes and 18 seconds. But you see, the Nothing phone really pushed through, man. And it died at 7 hours. So we're talking about an extra 50 minutes on top of what we have versus the Redmi. And mind you, the Redmi is powered by the Snapdragon 7 Gen, 7S Gen 2 or Gen 3, I believe, whichever one they're calling it. And it has a bigger battery at 5,100 milliamps compared to 5,000, ever so slightly. But yeah, the Nothing phone gapped it. Now the performance on here in terms of benchmarking is slightly higher, but still, the Nothing phone gapped it heavy. And it got into the gaming test and gamed for 24 extra minutes on that 7 hour interval where we go into gaming. So yeah, yo, props to it. Props to it, props to it, props to it, props to it. Now, of course, when we're comparing things like charging, you know, we did do the charging test and used the official Nothing charger. And as you can see here, what we have is 5,000 milliamp hour battery. It does support 45 watt charging. And it finished in respectable time. Obviously, there's no wireless charging on here, but I'm not expecting it to. In terms of finishing times and charging, you do have a finishing time of 1 hour, 5 minutes and 36 seconds. That's low-key even slightly faster than what I've been getting with the Galaxy S24 Ultra. But again, compared to the Xiaomi, you know, it's 46 minutes, 67 watts charging, and it's a plug that comes in the box. Remember this, the plug doesn't come in the box for the Nothing, so that's something you have to take into consideration and how you navigate through that. Yeah, so, you know, the battery experience, I think, is for how much you get, almost an extra 50 minutes of intense usage. Yeah, I'll definitely say that the battery life experience, even though you don't get a charger in the box and you do have to get it separately, I would say that the charging experience and the battery experience on a whole is a sing-song smash hit for a mid-range phone at this price point. Wow. That's a solid 9 out of 10 when it comes to the battery life experience on here. I'll probably deduct it from 9 to 8 just because you don't get the charger in the box. And you do have to purchase it separately, so it can go down to an 8, and it can go as far as 7.5 based on the fact that we always want to see less than 1 hour charge on a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. That's pretty much it. We don't know whether, obviously, the power curve is very aggressive when it comes to charging, but generally speaking, below a certain time, yeah. Apart from that, man, I think for the mid-range phones, again, testing it as we go through, this is really impressed me. Of course, the video section was 4K 30 because it doesn't support 4K 60. That's what I usually like to put it through. So a few disclaimers here and there, but I think for what it's packing in terms of its envelope and what it's doing, it's a good look. It's a good look. It's a very good look. Right, we're gonna add this into the mix straight away. Software, of course. We just had a software update. Let's see what we have here, right? Nothing OS 2.5.4. That's the build number right there. Software-wise, it's clean. Again, I don't really cover software that much. I just find it tedious and I find it boring. So I like to really cover in depth the things that I care about, which is the camera, battery, charging. We're probably gonna go into performance testing soon with our own speed test, so watch out for that. We're gonna be curating that and seeing how that looks like. But software-wise, we're working with the latest Android 14. I think Nothing did say that they will be getting 2 years of software updates on these platforms. So again, you know, should at least be 3. The standard now being raised to 4. But again, this is the price point of a mid-range, so I don't want to hold it too high. This is some of the experimental features that they're talking about, which is interesting. Digital well-being, as you know. Display, as you know. Battery, as you know. Usage, there we go. So the software-wise, honestly, is clean. Like if we go to the glyph interface, this isn't the full glyph interface, of course. Flip to glyph, obviously, is what I show you here. If I flip it, it's going to glyph out. Bam. So there's 3 glyph lights there. You can set a timer. It's all glyphy. It's all glyphy. Interesting. Ringtones. All right. Right, so that's the glyph interface, man. The haptics are so good on this, for real, for real, for real. The haptics are so good on this, for real. Software-wise, honestly, I think in terms of the mid-range sector, you can't go wrong. I honestly think Nothing have done a great job here in terms of the software. It's clean, it's fast, it's smooth, it's responsive. It's really good. It's really good. I've not felt any hiccups with it, man. I think it's just been solid and rock as it's been going, man. It's been a good look. Conclusion time. Let's wrap this up with this special review of the Nothing Phone 2A. Would I recommend it? 100% yes. £319. Oh my goodness. Wow. What they've been able to do here, even if you spec it up to the £380 model, like, man, this is such a good accomplishment. It's so well-rounded. I really like it. It's charming. It's charming. That's going to be the best way I'm going to put it. And I think, honestly, in the mid-range sector, at this rate, I think it deserves Phone of the Year when it comes to mid-range.